All right, who had a good insight from that exercise? Raise your hand if you had a good insight, just generally speaking. Wow, only the people over here I was looking at. I look over here, there's no hands up over here. All right, who had a good insight over here? All right, awesome. Anyone like to share? Give a quick insight over there. Got one here. Gentleman right here, come on up here.
Okay, my challenge was to learn to control my temper.
Yeah.
So my vision has been to become a person that's always has composure, is always calm and composed. So, I mean, this has been like amazing for me because I've been working on this for 3 days. It's evolved so much. Anyway, to the point.
Has anyone else had their thing evolve a lot? Okay, good.
Okay, so how would it affect me mentally if I had the composure? Well, for one thing, I wouldn't have a lot of negative ideas that I do have now about other people when I get angry, about myself after I've been angry.
Yeah.
So I would eliminate that, and the especially positive thing here would I would have more clarity and peace of mind. I would be able to devote that to more fruitful thinking, more positive things. Physically, if I had composure, I would have more equilibrium. I would be more balanced. And I guess in the long run, I would be a healthier person. So what to do to achieve that? Well, mentally it's been straightforward. I have to learn to get into other people's perspective. When I feel the temper rising, the anger coming out,
Yeah.
the immediate thing I have to do is place myself in other people's place and try to see it from their point of view. I guess that's going to make it more difficult to get angry, to lose my temper, or even make it impossible because I'll be busy doing that instead of getting angry. There's just a side note here. Yesterday when Wyatt talked about the idea of entanglement and the spin, when you affect a particle, even if you move the particles way apart, the reaction of one particle is identical to the other, even if they're apart. And working on exactly this, the bad temper, I thought, well, if the world is entangled every time I get angry and I have bad temper, I'm putting that into the world, and everything's entangled, so I'm actually making the world worse. And then I thought, well, somebody on the other side of the world maybe is having bad temper, and by this idea of spin connection, making me have bad temper. And I thought, no, that's wrong. It's me who is having bad temper and affecting another person on the other side of the world, and giving bad vibrations to that other person or persons on the other side of the world. So I sort of decided to own it. And I immediately thought, who can I be affecting? I don't know why, but I thought of a boy soldier in Africa. So maybe you're giving that boy that rage. So that's one perspective that I will keep in mind. Whenever I see it, I feel the temper rising, I will think of that boy soldier in Africa. And maybe that will help me. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for you, do you accept yourself when you get angry?
While I'm angry, I feel very righteous. Like I'm the only person who is right in this world. After that, I hate myself. Yeah.
You know, one thing you might try is when you're not angry, really being compassionate toward the you that gets angry. You know, instead of going into hating yourself. Yeah, I understand. Trust me. I understand. Right? Maybe try having compassion for yourself. Carl Jung and Carl Rogers both came up with an idea I've seen attributed to both of them, which is, in order to change something, you must first accept it fully. If you start resisting it before you've fully accepted it, You can't change it. It's just not the way things work.
That's law number 1 out of 77, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know this guy called David D'Angelo?
I've heard of him.
Yeah. He's okay.
Thank you. Good. Thank you very much. Excellent.
My name's Tony. I'm African. I come from Cameroon, but I live in the Netherlands. The vision that I had was something to do with my physical body. I want to weigh 88 kilos and to have 18% body fat. That was my vision. And the first thing I asked myself was, how would this vision affect me mentally? In the mental realm, if I hit that target, it would make me know that I could actually take something in my head and make it real, and actually look at it in the mirror and actually, you know, go from something very abstract in my head and actually make it physical. And that would give me the encouragement and the motivation to go after even more and more of my goals. So that was the first thing. The way it would affect me emotionally would be to make me just feel a lot more satisfaction and well-being, and it would help me to take care of myself better, because I tend to get away with things as long as I can get away with them. And yeah, I've been doing quite well on that. But, you know, basically,
You're not the only one that's gotten really good at getting away with stuff. There are a couple of others in here.
So basically, it would just be an expression of self-love towards myself, which is I always put myself last and give everybody else everything first. So that's the emotional impact it would have. Now, emotionally, I was asking myself, what could I do in the emotional realm to make this goal come true in the physical realm? And I realized that I eat and I drink and I don't sleep. I engage in all these strange behaviors because I'm trying to use those as ways to cover up certain emotions that I just deny. I just don't want to deal with that. So what I need to do is to find a healthy alternative to deal with these emotions that make me overeat, undersleep, and overdrink. And if I take care of that, then my body will take care of itself on the emotional realm. And that for me was just a huge realization. It never occurred to me. I just think, shit, you know, I'm fat, just go to the gym, exercise, exercise, exercise. Do nothing emotionally. Mentally, what I've got to do is, well, what I am going to do is I'm just going to wake up every single morning, exercise, wake up productive. First thing in the morning, use my willpower to exercise automatically. And I'm also going to, what was I going to do mentally? I'm also going to use my willpower basically to just make sure I eat regularly, make sure I eat healthy foods, and make sure I eat slowly. Thank you, Jenna. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Great. That's great.
All right, I'm going to go Raj style over here again. So basically, when you talked about having a blueprint for your life, that was a huge breakthrough for me, because I've been doing physical affirmations forever, like SL500, beach house, so much money per year. And then when I thought about it as a blueprint, I realized that right now, I'm basically operating in a building that's just like full of windows. And I say, I'm just going to do this one thing. And I start walking down the hallway in the morning, and I get distracted by email, and I waste my whole day. So that was a big breakthrough. And basically, my vision is to put together like an Excel feedback system that puts in all the components of my system so I have constant feedback every day. And so basically, that was the thing I'm trying to accomplish. And so under the physical realm, and I make myself donate $50 to a charity if I don't fill a spreadsheet out for the day before every morning and look at the graph. And I'm also going to put like a sticky note on my computer screen, because I still don't trust the money thing will help enough. And
Are you an overachiever?
try to be.
He's an aspiring overachiever. Awesome.
And that actually gets to the next thing, which is illogical. I want to stay awake more and just be more present logically in what I'm doing. And also, in your last program, we talked about prospecting, and we did it again today. And basically, I connected that I need to be modeling as well, like using that muscle to model, like people like yourself. And one thing I did like last night at dinner was like a, what would Eben Pagan do type thing instead of what would
God
Jesus do.
forbid. What are you talking about, man? No, trust me
But
on
it's
this
like,
one. No. No.
But I'm really kind of like auditory learner. Like I can remember things people say for years. So if I remember that loop in my head, like what would Evan Pagan do, then I'll choose salad more than bad food. So anyways, that will help me in actually doing the things in my spreadsheet so I get a good grade every day, and that's kind of like the logical part. And then I also ignore emotional things a lot. Like I've never put any value on them at all. And so
I ignore emotional things a lot. Like I've never put any value on them at all. Anyone else never put any value on emotions at all? Yeah, that's good.
And so my insight there was like, maybe some of these things which I'm trying to put in place, maybe I wouldn't get burnt out on them, and I'd have more support systems if I, had a minimum of 3 social events a week, so I'm not like stuck on my laptop nonstop. But also, more importantly, I think like external logical and external emotional have like an accountability partner, a mastermind group, so that they can give me feedback on what I'm trying to do, but also just so I don't feel like I'm just this work robot, and I actually have more of a like external things coming in.
Great.
So that was kind of my huge breakthrough as it finally came around in all the boxes.
Yeah. So he's really making a leap here, seeing how everything affects everything and how the whole system has to work as a system. Because that's the weird thing, is Wyatt said, you tweak one thing and something else moves. Great. Thank you. Great work. Dr. Sir Right Reverend General Woodsmall. By the way, you notice how a lot of human issues are getting addressed with these tools that don't seem to relate to those things, and how we can use our mind to do this work. And it's very, very powerful tools.
Okay, another tool. What do you want? What do you want specifically? What do you really want? Now then, it's an interesting thing. When we're children, we go to the candy store or we go to the toy store and we go, Mama, Mama, Daddy, Daddy, give me, give me, give me, give me. And the parents say, no, you can't have what you want. And furthermore, it wouldn't be good for you. So we grow up then learning to live without the things we want. We grow up believing that we can't have everything we want, or we may, in some cases, we can't have anything we want. And then we also got that voice in the back of our head, it's for your own good, and if you really got what you wanted, it wouldn't be good for you. So what do? We stop wanting. We stop wanting. We simply accept what is. We accept what is. In many cases, we know what we don't want, but we forget about what we want because we simply stop wanting. We lower our aspirations. We stop aspiring for things, and we simply float through life. So we need some tools to begin to do something about this, to begin to turn this situation around. If you ask most people what they want, the usual answer is, duh, I don't know. I don't know. That's tragic. That's tragic that people don't know what they want. So what do you want? What do you want specifically? So there's some tools we need in order to begin to work with this. And so this is the problem, that people, in deciding what they want, they usually start with what they're at and start in the now. So we need another process. My student Marvin Oka in Australia, my colleague, came up with a term for it. He calls it futuring. And Russell Akoff calls it idealized design. The basic idea is simple. Starting with the ideal situation or product rather than the existing one is a better way to design anything, including your life. So, starting with the ideal as opposed to the present. Go into the future. What would the ideal world be? Start with that, and then come back and figure out, well, how could we get there? But if we start from where we are, we've got all sorts of constraints in our thinking about where we think we can go. Idealized design is a way of thinking about change that is deceptively simple to state. In solving problems of virtually any kind, the way to get the best outcome is to imagine what the ideal solution would be and then work backward to where you are today. This ensures that you do not erect imaginary obstacles before you even know what the ideal is. Minds are incredible things. They can really help us and assist us, or they can constrain us and restrict us. The challenge for most people is the paucity of their imaginations. And that wasn't always the case. A design process that enables the constraint-free use of our brains is called idealized design. It was developed by Russell Ackoff. Idealized design is a system-based way of thinking about a future that you want now, not one you have to settle for or that is given to you by others, or is it off somewhere in the future. It is a learning-based way of planning that helps you be creative and generate alternatives, can enable you to conceive the inconceivable, and to come up with ideas that no other way of thinking that I know can. It does this by taking you back to the thinking of your childhood, when anything and everything was possible, because as a child, you weren't worried by constraints. To dream the impossible dream, to dream the impossible dream, to right the unrightable wrong, to try with your last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. A tool for imagining and creating the future, for using your mind. Go into the future. Think like a child. Lift your eyes. Imagine what you would like. Imagine what could be possible. Let go of any constraints. And once you let go of constraints and you've created that ideal vision of the ideal world, then come back and see what you can do to make it a reality. But don't start in the present. We all have to go back to what it was like to be a child, to see the world with a sense of awe, with a sense of radical amazement, with a wide-eyed factor. Not be that little boy or girl in the candy store or the toy store where our parents were telling us we couldn't have it and that we didn't deserve it and that it wasn't good for us. You can have it. You deserve it. It's good for you. All you've got to do is see it and reach for it. When you do that, your world will change.
There are a couple of main ways of looking at the world. One is, the world is the way that it is, and there's really nothing I can do to change it. The other way of looking at the world is, I can mold the world into whatever I want. These are deep belief levels, okay, deep reality paradigm levels. The world is the way it is. I can affect the world. I can change it. There's one consistent way of thinking that it appears to me holds human beings back from accomplishing big in their lives. It's one little strategy. I actually learned it from Wyatt. Okay, it's almost like the law of unsuccessful thinking. and it's bound up in cause and effect, linear models. And it goes like this. Whenever someone starts to think about what's possible, which most of us don't do that often to begin with, whenever someone starts to think about what's possible or something they'd like to create, instead of starting with what's possible, they start with reality. They start with what's available. They look at what's going on right now, and then they say, what could I do with what's available now? And they put together combinations, or more often they look at the limitations and they realize they can't do anything. And that's how they vision, that's how they future. In other words, they look for causes to see effects. They look around and they say, well, how much money do I have? Well, I've got $100. What can I cause with that? And that's the limit to what they think they can cause. The flip side of this coin is when you talk to someone and you say, what would you like to do? And they say, well, you know, I'd really like to get a higher education and become a teacher. But nah, you know, that probably isn't going to happen. Why not? Why isn't that going to happen? Because I don't have the grades to get into a good college. I don't have the money to get into a good college. I don't know anyone that's in a good college that could get me in. In other words, the first thing that someone does when they do imagine greater is then they come right back to now and they look at everything that's going on and they ask, could this be a cause for that? So they keep looking at immediate causes, what's available right now, as if the only way to get anywhere is for there to be a direct link from right now to it. There has to be like one level, very cause-effect. One box leads to another, and if that's not available, they say, can't do it. And their storying mechanism comes in and immediately writes a whole story about how it's impossible to get there. You literally can't get there from here. Because on their map, they've got 10 elements around them, and then they look one step further, and they go, nope, that's not here. That's on a different map somewhere else in a different dimension, not available through mine. Okay, so we look for causes first, and we look at causes to see what's possible. The other way of doing this whole game is to throw off constraints, to throw off all limits, all causes, to not ask whether or not something's logical or rational or possible or any of that. And I'm not talking about this from a, like the inner city youth playing basketball who thinks they're going to be a rap star, throws off constraint. Okay. I'm talking about this using all these tools that we're learning here and taking our full kind of adult capacity with us, using our brain intentionally, investing, looking at multiple perspectives, and asking, what would I like to create? Right? What would I like to create, actually make happen in the world? And then once you do that, and you get into it and you see it, and you could see how the whole thing could work, and how the world's better, and how your community is better, and how you're better, and how it all works, and it really makes sense for everyone, then from there, from that perspective, then build the system that will get there. Then use your mind to see all of the connections, to see all the components that need to be put together, to see how it would all be done. And then instead of coming up with, oh, I don't know anybody that could help me do that, or I don't have the money for that, or I don't know how to do that, what you start coming up with is, well, here are the people that would have to be involved. Here's where the money would have to come from. Here are the steps that would have to happen. And then you just go to work on it. And you make it happen. So it sounds like a similar way of doing things, but it's really not. It's a completely different way of approaching life. It's not approaching life from the world is the way it is, simple linear cause and effect. It's approaching life from I can affect the world and I can change it in any way that I choose. Now this isn't, The Secret, where we just close our eyes and we go, and the little bands explode from the head, and we come home from our fast food job and there's a shiny new red car in the garage. It's not like that. Okay? We actually have to dance with the world, and great success usually emerges over long periods of time using a lot of different tools. But my experience is it's much better to wake up in the future in 10 years and have every area of your life just humming and working together than it is to wake up in the future and go, nah, well, I didn't really do anything, and everything's pretty much still the same. I could have, but I don't know if it was really worth it. Okay, I don't know anybody, I haven't met anyone yet who invested the time for several years in their life building and connecting up all the critical pieces and creating I stopped. Building up all the critical pieces and creating success physically, emotionally, logically, internally, and externally, that then comes back and says, I wish I would have just laid around more. I wish I would have watched more TV and stayed on the couch. That's one that I don't hear. Good. It's worth developing this skill. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to future with a little more intention. And specifically, what we're going to do differently and what we're going to do consciously is we're going to throw off all constraint and throw off all causes and all what's possible and all what's logical and any of that. And we're going to play. We're going to write a fantasy novel, a different dimension. Okay? Something that would inspire us and would inspire other people too. Like they would want that reality to be created in the future because they'd like living in it with you. What you might want to do is you might want to close your eyes and you might want to make the picture of it first and you might want to make it move. You might even get into your own personal hot air balloon and rise up above now and float out into the future and then get out of it and look around and see how it's all working, all the different pieces. See the important people in your life and see what they're doing. See where you're living and what that looks like. Notice how you're feeling. Notice how the world has changed. Like really see it working. See the whole thing operating. And then from there, notice, almost kind of look over your shoulder a little bit and notice some aspect, physical, internal or external, emotional, internal or external, logical, internal or external. One of those things has changed significantly and very specifically, measurably, something you could describe, it's tangible. And somehow that plays into this new vision. That's a big part of it. And then come back to now, and then write the vision, and mention that one element, that one of these 6 quadrants that's meaningful and motivating to you. That's the one when you looked back and you realized how you looked or how you felt, right? The state of mind you were in, your surroundings, your interactions with others, your connection, your contribution. Something is really, really inspiring in that future. would draw you toward it. And then come back to now. Don't worry about the steps to getting there, any of the constraints. Just write it down. Forget about whether or not it's possible. If you transport yourself to another reality, like Star Wars or like Pandora in Avatar, fine. It's totally okay, because we're activating the part of our mind that creates unconstrained. Unconstrained. Nothing's off limits. Nothing's out of bounds right now. Forget about being realistic or any of that stuff. You just write for a few minutes. Who had something happen when they were doing that was a little different experience? 1, 2, 3. All right, come on over here.
Something really interesting happened with this. When Wyatt was standing up there talking about people not kind of getting in touch with what they really want and feeling like they don't deserve it and all that stuff, I have a pattern that shows up again, and I am throwing this out here because I'm sure other people have the same pattern of withholding, not kind of having a hard time receiving.
You're really throwing this out because of them?
No.
Well, you just said you were.
What's going on here, Evan?
I don't know, but I am curious.
What I discovered about this exercise, and it's ironic because I didn't do it. I was so sort of caught up in this insight that I didn't actually do it, which is part of this whole thing. That, well, I'm a firm believer in how you do one thing is how you do anything. So this like withholding pattern, this inability to receive, this like,
So
for
you're
me it shows up.
a firm believer.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer.
Firm? Okay.
Yeah, at the moment.
All right, great. We'll
Okay.
take care of that in the next section.
Great. I think that I've experienced, okay, that how you do one thing is how you do everything, and it shows this shows up for me in a number of different ways. And I realized that this simple exercise might be a way not just to kind of get in touch with, you know, what I really want, but a way to start to shift that pattern, because it would mean really thinking about what I really want and like kind of taking the fetters off. So instead of withholding, really coming forth, even just a little bit on the paper. So in addition to being this great visioning exercise, it would be an exercise that would start to change that pattern. And by starting to change that pattern in the exercise, it would kind of be a gateway to changing the pattern elsewhere. Does that make
Excellent.
sense?
Good. It's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
for
welcome.
sharing. Now, while the other two here are sharing, go do the exercise. Thank you for sharing, though. That's great.
Hi, I'm Scott Day from Scottsdale, and
Did you say?
I did. It's weird, I know. I've always wanted to be college football in America, Division I. I've been in Division III, and I realized as I was doing this exercise why I'm not. And why I'm not is because I've been playing small, which means I've been the nice guy, laying low, laying back, not being aggressive. And I always thought it was all about me, about what I was doing. And really, I realized that when I was writing down the exercise, I was using not me, but we. It's like I'm a part of a team of 7 officials that exercise and create an environment where the athletes can perform at their highest level without interference and without, what would you say, cheating, so to speak, because that's what we do. And I realized that the reason I wasn't really focused on, I was focused on me, but not me being part of a team, and realizing that they're looking for guys or gals who can be a part of a team. It was a big ha-ha for me. So thank you.
That's a good one. Good.
Hey, Mr. Pagan. Yusuf Clack from San Jose, California. Tweaking my head here. which is what I signed up for, so thank you.
Wyatt and I were going to call the program Mind Tweaking. We just decided Mind Control sounded rolled off the tongue a little better.
Last night I had this scary kind of fun experience where I just like, I realized that hold-ons are like shooting everywhere in every direction and just like moving and spinning. It was just like this weird thing, but the cool thing is we have these tools to kind of map it out a little bit, and even though you realize they're very crude when you kind of look at that level and you go down, but it's like it gives you some power to go, okay, wow, it's a lot more, it's empowering. From this exercise, what I realized is that, I mean, I started my business about a year ago, thanks to a lot from your help. And before that time, I was very good at visioning like this super bright future and full color, animated, and just like, all this stuff. And lately it's been ticking me off because I keep going, okay, where am I going to take the business? And it's like, I keep trying to make that vision and I find like all these roadblocks, and it's like I haven't been able to do it. And it was on this exercise, having these labels kind of gave me some control over it, like understanding, oh, it's this linear trap. And I'm basically, since the business is real, I can't help but get out. It's like I just want to look at it from where it is now, and it's like those direct leaps. I have to make direct leaps now that the business is real. But then basically understanding that that's the trap and just totally letting go and go, okay, what am I ultimately trying to affect here? I started to think at a community level, because I want to build this community of strong dads, and it just kind of got to this whole new level of like these events that I like to have, each year that, different experts come and just focus on these different areas of life. And, finally one, community event where the families get together and finally put it into practice, all the stuff we're learning, all the tools we're getting, we're able to kind of put that in a more organic, real way. So that was a new breakthrough.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Thanks, man. There are some commonalities here, you notice, interestingly enough. Right, when you zoom out and you just think in possibility and you start thinking systemically, you realize that this model of putting these hold-ons together, these cause effects together into systems that create an emergent, at some point you have the aha, that the real power comes when you put yourself in a system of other hold-ons called other people. And together you create an emergent. And then you put the group of people together with other groups of people, and they create an emergent. These are things that are beyond us. They're operating on a level that we can never directly understand or apprehend. We can just draw maps and models and pictures in our head. We can watch what's going on, but we can never see the whole thing because there are all these other people, and yet somehow it happens.